So let's talk about what a tactical 360 should look like. Everybody wants to know, give me step one, step two, step three. That's how firefighters want to be taught. So this is one slide that gives you an overview of the steps. It's not the entire process, but it's the steps. First of all, standard size up concepts apply. When I look at a building like this, I still need to look at it from the same fundamental foundational knowledge you were taught. Okay, what type of building is it? Yeah, it looks like a cinder block foundation, shotgun style house. Open the front door, I can shoot a bullet through the back, goes out. It's A-frame, it's wood, it's old, it's drafty, got heavy smoke showing from the alpha side. That's normal stuff. What time of day? All that stuff you got to apply into your incident action plan, into your size up. Now, all I'm asking you to do when you're standing there on the alpha division or A division is scan across the lower portion, the foundation, across the middle, towards the windows and doors, and then across the roof line, starting at the soffits and working your way up. We're going to teach you what to look for. And we'll look for openings such as doors and windows. We're going to check them as we walk around. Because where do people run to when things go bad? They're trying to get out. And a lot of fire victims are found where? Very close to egress points or entrance points. And then there's an interesting model, decision-making model my father came up with called now, next, future, past. What do I have right now? Where is it going next? What's the future look like for this thing, depending on what I do? And what are my past decisions? And what does the past few seconds tell me? And I'm going to show you how to apply that. I know that may sound kind of foreign to you to start with, but I'm going to show you how it works. And here's another acronym, since firefighters love acronyms. I tried to come up with a way to put all this together so when you look at a building, you got to know what you're looking at. A guy wrote an article called The Language of Heat says this in his article. He says, you need to know as much as what you're looking at as what you're looking through. This is a college dormitory in Buchanan, West Virginia. We were fortunate enough to burn. Now, we weren't fortunate because we did it in June and it was 98 degrees, but it was an amazing training opportunity and we couldn't turn it down. So when I look at a building like this, I need to know first this acronym, STICK. Stick to this. I'm looking at surfaces. This is brick. Brick absorbs heat really well, may not show signs of fire. But what is brick held together with? Mortar. Now, if you take a building inspection class, you'll learn that when mortar fails, you'll see signs of moisture, stair-step cracking. You'll see that on a thermal imaging camera if it's not on the sunny side of the structure. Also, this is where we talk about that concept I said earlier, known as emissivity. Surfaces, the camera reads surfaces based on the emissivity of it. Emissivity is a fancy word for, is the surface shiny or is the surface rough? All fire service thermal imaging cameras are programmed at 0.95 emissivity. Well, why should I care about that? Well, you should care because it'll lead you astray if you look at a shiny object. Because if it's a rough surface, your camera will read it within a relative accuracy of plus or minus 3 to 5 degrees. That's what they claim inside of a warehouse in a non-fire environment. If it's a shiny surface, such as a stainless steel fridge or a glass window, like 0.1 emissivity, it can be 2, 3, 400 degrees off. Should that matter to you? Matters to me. If you don't believe me, when you're done tonight or tomorrow, go boil some water in a shiny pot in the kitchen at the firehouse. Get the rookie over there with the thermal imaging camera, point at the side of the shiny pot. And it'll tell you that the temperature of that shiny pot is the same as the room. And you'll look at that water boiling and you go, I don't trust that. And you shouldn't, because it's basing it off a 0.95 emissivity times the algorithm that's in there, the Stefan-Boltzmann equation, that gives you what is known as an apparent temperature. Apparent temperature is nothing more than a swag, a scientific wild-ass guess. Okay, if it doesn't have the right emissivity, they teach you in thermography, and emissivity is the single most important attribute in temperature measurement. If it's not right, your measurement's not going to be right. Remember what I told you in the beginning. We're not looking for exact measurements. We're looking for problems, what's known as qualitative. There is a issue right here and right here. Why is that? Because that's not normal to have a heat signature like that around the top frame of that door and around that window. Even though I can't see through glass, that's double pane glass. And double pane glass, when it gets hot, the argon does funny stuff. It produces a heat signature also around the edges, because windows are made of what? Wood, metal, plastic, And around the edges of every one of these holes, such as a door or window, they put beautiful things such as rubber gaskets and caulk, which are all made of what? Polyurethane, synthetics, and they burn beautifully. So that's our surfaces. Now we look for temperature or heat. We're looking for abnormalities. You see two of them in this picture. And here's where we get in trouble. How well is this building insulated? I showed you a picture of a green or LEED certified building that's been spray foamed. Those can hide heat and they can fool us. So just because you don't see anything doesn't mean it's not there. When in doubt, check it out. Don't just trust the camera. I want you to look at it with your eyes. And we're looking for cues, thermal bridges, where heat is transferring from the interior to the exterior. Engineers hate thermal bridging. Their job is to eliminate that. They don't want the energy in our homes or buildings to transfer from one room to another or from interior to exterior because A, it costs us money, B, you can't have an energy efficient building if it does that. So what they do is they install things such as insulation, caulk, spray foam, all of that to stop it. The problem with that stuff is a lot of it is extremely flammable. So if there's a fire near there, what do you think is going to happen? Around my 1951 front door, which is 2 inches thick, is a $4 rubber Lowe's gasket. Which one's going to fail first? My oak door or that rubber gasket? That rubber gasket is going to burn right off. And it's going to produce this beautiful white heat signature around the edge that warns the firefighter at the front door and says, hey, don't open me until you're ready, okay? Because when you do, the orange man cometh, right? And the last thing in our acronym is K, kind of thermal imaging camera. Why should this matter to you? Because there are so many types out there, and I wish I could say everybody's using the right one, and they're not. There's decision-making cameras and situational awareness cameras as far as fire service ticks currently. And then there's people in fire departments who are using industrial-grade cameras, which they shouldn't be, or using fire service ticks that have industrial-grade color palettes. Industrial grade color palettes are not designed for firefighting. They're typically low temperature, low contrast. So they're trying to produce more contrast for the client to see where the problem is in a building inspection. What happens when I take an iron bow, green bow, rainbow, whatever color palette that they have on there that's not designed for fire attack, and I give it a large amount of heat? I get saturation and I get all these colors blended together and it looks like a bad acid trip, okay? Now, there are certain cameras that offer certain features, such as application modes. And if you understand them, they can be a game changer for you, such as hot spot tracker, cold spot tracker. That's available in the Scott X380 and the Argus MyTick. Those two features can help you inside and outside. You want to know more about that? I can send you more information after class. Bullard uses something called electronic thermal throttle. That's excellent for size up and overhaul, not for fire attack. You can dial up and down the sensitivity, but you got to know how to use it, because if you don't, everything's going to be Smurf blue and you're going to get confused. Draeger and FLIR have a heat detection mode where you're looking for small heat signatures. Those are when you have multi-applications that can help you, but you got to know how to use them. If you don't know how to use them, don't start pushing buttons, because buttons will get us in trouble. Okay? So what can you diagnose with a Tactical 360? Everything I just told you about and more. Where's the fire and how bad is it? Does that matter to you as an incident commander and as a firefighter? It should, because our job is to save lives and property. So the sooner we get to the fire and put it out, the better. Possible victim location. First thing in the acronym LIP is life. We are to save lives and property if possible. So if I know where the victim is from the exterior and in the interior, I'm going to get to the victim. If you take our search class, the research shows 70% faster. I'll show you a vent enter search video here in a little bit. From the time he gets in and the time he's out is 1 minute. And that's getting and searching outside the door. Why? Because he had a guide at the window going, go here, go there. He's actually saying, go to your 3 o'clock, go to your 5 o'clock. Because we don't use go here, go there, go right, go left, and zero visibility, because that doesn't work. We learned that the hard way. Our military brothers and sisters have got it figured out. We can learn a lot from people who are not in our profession, who are doing some things that we are doing similarly. And that's why we took thermography concepts, industrial concepts, things from the military, and we put them into experientially relevant examples like you're seeing here so you can use them. We can learn the building configuration and layout. A, by reading the building, the windows, the doors. You should be able to be taught to do that in your basic building construction class. But we teach a concept called taking a quick look before we start our 360. And we take that quick look inside that front door and we learn, A, is this a neat 3-bedroom clustered bedroom plan? Or is this a split bedroom plan with hoarding conditions? Or is this a mess of a house with a motorcycle shop in the front living room? I don't know. Helps me with that. Helps me understand that, right? Do they have 9 couches in their living room? That makes a difference. Building construction issues. I'm looking at an older home that's drafty and falling apart, or something that's been chopped up and made into something it shouldn't be. Exposure issues. I showed you examples of that. Signs of structural integrity loss. You probably were taught this in your fire classes. When you start seeing the roof will sag, the pipes will grow. Well, guess what? Wood starts to break down between 300 and 500 degrees. If you're outside of the house with a thermal imaging camera at a good distance away, and you're in low sensitivity mode, seeing colorization, seeing temperatures between 300 and 500 degrees outside in a lightweight construction building, what do you think's happening to the inside? I'll leave that with you. Direction of fire spread and travel. Where is it and where it's going? How can I predict that? Pretty simple. I locate it first with my camera, and then I identify what Joe DeVito says in his class, survivable spaces, cold spaces. Once I identify where it's coldest, what does the heat like to do? Nature hates an imbalance. It goes from hot to cold. If I open the front door on the alpha side and the fire's on the C side, where's it going to go? To me, right? It's going from hot to cold. So I can control that and predict it. And my personal favorite, with these houses with lots of voids and knee walls, we can identify the problem areas, hidden fire. I don't know anybody who's a firefighter who hasn't had a fire that didn't give them an issue because it was running in the walls, it was in the knee walls, it was in some unusual void space, and they finally found it. Guess what? The thermal imaging camera can help you find it faster. So those are a few things we can diagnose. Got a few more. We'll take a break here. When we start talking about size up, I want you to put your thinking cap on with me for a second and think about other than the fire. Remember I told you about Ryan Pennington's concept known as a 380 degree size up? I want you to open up your paradigm, your perspective with me for a minute and think about looking at more than just the fire. I want to look at more than just the building because a lot of times some things I don't see can get me in trouble. And a lot of times I need other things. Some of my good friends don't have hydrants. They have to do water supplies or tanker shuttles. They have to locate a pond or a water supply. Look at this hydrant when it's got water flowing through it. It's dark. Why? Because it's cold. What about wildland firefighting? We're having to drive the trucks through smoke. Well, we can use our thermal imaging camera to guide us, but let me tell you something. Don't sit in the front seat and point at the window and tell the driver he can go. If you're the driver, you can throat punch the company officer because they're an idiot. You can't see through glass, okay? Not that way. Somebody has to get out or hang their head out and guide them, okay? And one of the things that just breaks my heart when I read about this all the time too, when we're talking about guiding apparatus through smoke, you read about our wildland firefighting brothers and sisters who die every year when they're driving off cliffs. And that could be prevented because a lot of our game wardens have FLIR already on their vehicles. Why do we not have that on their vehicles? On that note, we've had just this year, we had 2 firefighters that I know of across the country that stopped to render aid to people at a wreck and stepped on down power lines. Down power lines that are active, energized, look differently than a power line up in the sky. Power line up in the sky, you may not see with a tick, but if it's active and energized, it will produce a heat signature in most cases. And I can show you how that shows up. Those of you who run lots of motor vehicle accidents, you pull up, there's a car down an embankment, and they tell you someone's been ejected. You look in the car, you see a car seat in the back. Your first thought, like mine, heart start beating a little faster. You scan with a tick inside the car with the door open first, and you see one heat signature in the driver's seat. To me, that makes me feel a lot better knowing I'm looking for one person, not one person and the child has been ejected. If you want to try this little exercise when you're at the fire station next time, everybody's sitting around in the recliners watching a movie. After you're done, get up, take the tick, and look at those seats. You'll see your heat signature. and come back 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and see how long it takes for it to dissipate. And that gives you a good idea of how long you can see that heat signature based on your camera. And if you've ever jumped a fence without looking and ran into a 100-pound angry dog, you might want to look with a thermal imaging camera because you can see him or her at night. And this is why you want to pay attention more than just the building and what's on fire, because this is a down power line that came loose from the house and set it on fire and landed on a chain link fence. Now it's melting the snow, but would that be easy to miss? Yes. What happens when you're carrying your roof ladder around the side and you're like me, I'm shorter, so I got the lower end, and my buddy who's taller has got the high end. We carry low, high, and he runs into that down power line that we don't see. Bad day. Both of us are zapped, right? And this is what it looks like through the eyes of the tick. Now, if you were the engineer and you were setting up, and this is what you saw first, my good buddy Sean did this video. It's a tree down. You see nothing. Got the tape up. Now what do you see? That would hurt if you stepped on that. It'd be game over. Remember when I told you in the beginning, I want you to take a look. And if you take our entire curriculum, we'll tell you 2 statements to constantly remember. One is to look both ways before you cross the street. You wouldn't let your child run across a busy highway without looking both ways and holding their hand. Secondly, we want you to be a long-range sniper, not a pocket knife assassin. What do I mean by that? A sniper looks at a target from a very, very long way off without getting involved in it and takes it out and then moves on his or her way. This is a relative safe distance from this dangerous item. That's what we want you to do. Now, this is from my good friend and fellow instructor, Joey Baxa. They had a house fire, and when they went around the back, the panel had been blown off, and they could clearly see the heat signature from the overheated electrical panel. So that was their red flag. And here's my personal favorite. I was taught about a lot of things ticks can't do. They say you can't see gases and smoke temperatures with ticks, fire service ticks. There's a different level of thermography for that. It's called optical gas imaging. But here's the problem with that statement. There's always an exception. And in this case, natural gas lines are approximately 2 feet underground where I'm at. And this is a commercial gas line that was hit by the cable company. And when they hit it, it's 110 degrees outside that day. Well, natural gas is pumped at 58 to 60 degrees. And a 2-inch gas line's under a lot of pressure. And 60 degrees coming through 100-degree dirt makes a beautiful cold heat signature. So that's why we could see it. We couldn't see where it was going, but we could see where it was at and where the leak was. And that matters, right? That's learning how to use your brain plus the camera and going to work. Now, let's talk about you being the first due incident commander. I know many of you probably respond mutual aid and show up to help other fire departments. Some of you may not have the same operating procedures, tactics, and whatnot. We're not going to get into that. But what I want you to think about when you watch this video, from what little bits you've already seen, there is a crew inside attacking this house fire. You are the first due incident commander. They have not done a 360, and you walk up and see this. "1940s house with a hip roof." That's not smoke you're seeing coming from the roof. That's your first hint. Notice what's open. Front door. What do you think's not open when you look down that front door where the hose line's going? The nozzle, because they're in there trying to find the fire. So I got a 7x3 ventilation opening behind me. I have a line stretched to the wrong place. The fire's to the left, they're to the right. I've got tons of heat right here, gentlemen and ladies. Look at this. All underneath this porch, mixing and moving, mixing and growing. What's going to happen? And where's it going to light? Right there. And as my father says, my nozzle's going to be pointed in the wrong direction. And I'm cut off because that's my exit. Now, I was taught smooth bump to the pump. You want to crawl back through a blowtorch? Nope. You take our attack class, one of the things we talk about is cooling as we go, owning the space and confirming that with the camera. But we also mark doors with water, because I was taught to mark doors with chalk. Unless you're carrying uranium chalk nowadays, I can't see it. So when I coat that doorway and I look back with my camera, I say exit number 1, exit number 2, because I want to crawl to a door, shut that door behind us, give us some time to get out, instead of crawling 50 to 75 feet through an inferno.